What's up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of MLB Crunch Time, sponsored by the wonderful people over at Fanduel. I'm your host today, TJ Zawarich. We got a three-man booth talking some NFL on this nice all-day Sunday slate. I am joined by Chief Will Priester. How you doing, my man?
I'm good, brother. It's a beautiful day. Happy Mother's Day to all the
Happy Mother's
mothers
Day to
listening.
everyone.
It's incredible. I'm going to see my mom today. Gonna have some family dinner, and my fiance is going, and so it's Happy Mother's Day to her too. And so it's going to be a great day.
I am apparently underdressed for Mother's Day. I got my Agents of Fandom hoodie on, but Will and our other co-host today, Tim, you're looking wonderful. Tim Buell, Tasteful Tides, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. I just got back from brunch after this show. We're going out for some Italian also. So this is a full day of going out and celebrating, my family and my mom. And, it's been a great day. So I'm looking forward to breaking down a little baseball, watching some baseball, and then going out and drinking some wine and eating some Italian food.
It sounds like a absolutely beautiful day. This is my first time hosting in a while. I'm a little rusty, but make sure you're hitting the like button, people, because I'm still going to be dropping those Spidey bombs for everybody. Every 50 likes, we're already 10 away from our first one, and we're going to be dropping them every 50 likes, at 50, at 100, and so on and so forth. But let's start diving into this slate. Chief, I'm going to throw it to you first. Give me a overview of what you think, because we got a lot of balanced totals today. There's not that many high totals on the board. I think Milwaukee's the highest with the 5.37 total today. Nothing really breaking the books, and there's not that many super low ones either.
Yeah, actually, I think this is a pretty good slate overall. I don't feel like this isn't a slate full of ace pitchers per se, but I think we've got pitchers that are slightly below that, or some that are possibly heading to slightly below that. And I think we've got enough offense here to make it work. So the totals are pretty balanced. I think the pitching is pretty balanced. I think the bats are pretty balanced. So I like this slate. It feels just right almost, even though we don't have the Coles, we don't have the DeGroms, who's always hurt. We don't have Strider. We don't have those guys, but I still think this is a good quality slate, man. It's a good one. I like it.
And this for me is still in the morning, this crunch time slate that we got going on. It's early afternoon on the East Coast, still in the AM on the West Coast, but you're used to being up early. Tell us about your Pick'em show that you got going every morning in the weekday.
Yeah, man, Take Your Pick'em comes on live every day, or weekday, at 10:30. Talking plays from the Pick'em sites, Prize Picks, Underdog. We'll get into a little Vivid, a little Hot Streak, different things like that. So I really like the show. I like to break down. I get to talk those plays with you. We're doing okay on the month so far in terms of plays right versus plays wrong. Just want to make sure we help people make a few more dollars the rest of the month, and let's get them up some big numbers here as we close this thing out. Midway through the month, we're starting tomorrow right at the midpoint, so I'm pretty excited. I think we're turning the corner. Typically for MLB, and I know I'm hogging it up, I'll be very brief after this. Typically for MLB, we really get cranked up probably somewhere in between mid-May and June, and that's when it just really takes off like a rocket to the moon for those of you that are in the cryptocurrency. So we're going to the moon here soon, and I hope everybody gets on for the ride.
You can get your fantasy props pick'ems from Will's Take Your Pick'em show, and you can also get some nice bets over at the Fanduel Sportsbook, our wonderful sponsor. You can sign up for the Fanduel Sportsbook if you're in the legal sports betting states and take advantage of their awesome bonus offer. New customers get a bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets. Terms and conditions apply. We have reached enough likes for the first Spidey Bomb. We got 69. Nice. Get us up to 100, and I got Spidey Bomb at number 2 for you. But today, we're going back to the well with a guy who let us down yesterday, but I'm pretty sure he's going to hit a home run today, and Spidey feels the same way. His odds over at FanDuel are only plus 330, which aren't bad considering his matchup today against Yusei Kikuchi, who has struggled to strike out lefties so far this year, and he's been getting hit very, very hard. And I'm going with Matt Olson. He's the first Spidey Bomb today. Over on Caesars, you can find him for plus 450. So that's Spidey Bomb number 1 today. Before we dive into pitching, Tim, give me your kind of overview of the slate.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a very, very condensed pitching pool. I think that it's pitching at least is pretty straightforward. Hitting is where I think things can get pretty interesting. There's not like a real standout, like must play team, in my opinion. A lot of team totals that aren't really separated by a whole heck of a lot. It's just I think even if I'm an MME player, that I think I want a very, very, very condensed pitching pool and then spread out with my bats. And also, I think that you don't necessarily I always really want to tell people that they really need to stack, but I think this could be a good slate to maybe break up some of those stacks a little bit and maybe just try to find some kind of like power one-offs, because I think there's not really a stat that I think is like a must play. So I think getting some one-offs would be a viable strategy.
This slate is actually the least I've stacked the entire slate. This is the most I've gone out of my way in my lineup HQ builds, running 150 on DraftKings to make sure I get in multiple one-offs, because it's like you said, there's no stacks that stand out, but there's actually a lot of guys I really like individually as some one-offs today. In terms of weather, we got wind blowing out in Detroit today. And then we got in Houston at Chicago. That's the only one we are potentially worried about some weather. We got Giolito in that game. We got Hunter Brown in that game. And according to Ross Report, starts mostly dry, but I don't think it ends that way. High-res models actually have the heavier rain upstream, weakening a bit as it moves in. So maybe they are able to play through some showers, but a delay or unfinished game is a possibility. He's going to be keeping updated on his Twitter page, so make sure you have the notifications on for Ross' Twitter. But that does kind of sound like maybe we're still okay to get those pitchers, as it doesn't sound like it's coming until later. And I mean, if we're playing Giolito or Hunter Brown, we're probably hoping for just kind of 6-7 innings anyway. And so you're not really worried about the end of it if it doesn't finish. That could maybe end up even being a good thing for them. Just kind of leads one of them into a win kind of thing. But let's talk about pitching, because the elephant in the room it's Logan Gilbert. He's going to be the chalk, but he is the top play, I think, on both sites by a fairly wide margin today. I'm playing 150 on DraftKings, and I got 150 lineups with Logan Gilbert in it. How are you handling him today, Chief, on Fanduel specifically, and then over to DraftKings?
I like him on Fanduel. I'm not at lock button on Fanduel, obviously, just because of there's so many outs. But I do think he's the top player today facing Baltimore. It's been really good this season. If my memory serves me correctly, because I'm not looking at Plate IQ, I think he's around a 31% K rate on the season. I'm pretty sure I'm right on that. And I mean, look, Detroit's going to give him the matchup of the year essentially now. And I know Detroit's been giving us, or at least on the pick'em sites, it's been giving me problems all week. I feel like every pitcher has just had a massive letdown this week against the Detroit Tigers, but I am not expecting Mr. Logan Gilbert to do that to us. Another guy that I think, especially since we're talking FanDuel, I think a lot of people may end up on Louis Varland at 8,400. I think he's good today as well, facing the Cubs. Very reasonable price for him. I think the odd man out that I actually still like, that a lot of people may stay away from, is Mitch Keller, just because he's more expensive than Logan Gilbert today. But I still think Keller's got some upside in this spot against Baltimore. Baltimore there are some strikeouts in this lineup today, and I think paying up to Keller a little bit just to be a little contrarian. I'm not saying you've got to go incredibly high in terms of your ownership, but just paying up a little bit to get a little bit more contrarian in the field, I think is great. So Keller is somebody I really like today. I mean, this is a guy, we've seen him go out and pitch 7 innings this season. He goes 7 innings, 7 Ks, and limits the damage. He's going to be really good today. So just wanted to point him out as well.
I like Keller today a lot for tournaments. We do have a question in the YouTube chat. Typically, I'm going to be going to the Discord and MLB Crunch Time channel first, the RotoGrinders Discord first for QQs, but this one is directly related to something I want to talk about is playing Hunter Brown 2Q considering the weather if I'm only playing 3 lineups. Especially on FanDuel, I like Hunter Brown as a tournament option today. I think he's got a nice price tag. The White Sox suck. I think Logan Gilbert has got to be the guy you're going to in cash, right, Tim? But I also like Brown in tournaments.
Yeah, I think you nailed that pretty well. Like Brown is completely fine for tournaments. Gilbert's definitely the cash game play. I could see a case of playing Varland in cash, but I think that for cash games, I want that safety and go with Logan Gilbert. I just think that I'm looking at Kevin Ross weather edge, and I see that it's going to be a pretty nasty day in Minnesota, and it's winds blowing in. It's going to be a good spot for Varland, but for cash games, I'm going to take the safety and go with Gilbert.
And I think it's kind of interesting if you, in our RotoGrinders played IQ projections, we got Gilbert as the highest projected guy with Hunter Brown just right beside him. But if you pivot over to Cardi's, the bad projections, he actually has Varland as the highest scoring raw points pitcher on the entire slate. So definitely something to keep in mind if you want to make that pivot to Varland. Over at the bats, it does look good. For me over on DraftKings, I have 100% Gilbert. He's going to be in every one of my lineups. Brown, Varland, and Keller all are at about 20% as my SP2 today. Luke Weaver is a guy that I actually like quite a bit because this is a guy that even though he hasn't been very good, he's been striking out righties. And he's facing one lefty. Arias is the only one who's left-handed in that Miami lineup today. There's no Jazz Chisholm. He got hurt in the last game. He's got a right foot contusion. And you look at this Miami lineup, there's lots of strikeouts outside of Arias, the one lefty in that lineup. There's only two other guys in that entire lineup with under a 20% strikeout rate. And so far, and if you look back to last season, Luke Weaver's striking out 25% of righties. If you take it to this season, yeah, he's giving up an absolute ton of power, hard hits and fly balls, but he's also striking out 27%. So he's somebody in tournaments I don't mind getting to at about a 15% rate. Scherzer is an interesting one because if you look at long-term data, he's the best pitcher on the slate. If you look at this year, he's been terrible. So how are you guys handling Max Scherzer today? Are either of you getting to him at all?
I'll let you take this one, Tim.
I'm only playing one team today, and Max Scherzer is not on it. I can't really. He's so tough to handicap right now. I think that he's battling some injuries. Cardi has him projected for 90 pitches, which is not ideal. The matchup is good, but Washington, despite them having no power, they also don't really strike out. So it's not really like an amazing matchup for strikeouts. That being said, if you wanted to get a little bit of exposure for GPPs, I really wouldn't have a problem with it. Obviously, his long-term skill set is outstanding. Could he have a ceiling performance here? Yes, I do consider that unlikely. But given the fact that the field is not really on him either, I wouldn't mind if people took some shots on him, but I would not get carried away with it.
I kind of feel the same way today. I got about 10% of him in GPPs. Tim, who would be your guy for an SP2 in cash on DraftKings? I think it probably has to be Louis Varland. But after Varland, talk to me about the other potential SP2 people are going to. $5,900 Braxton Garrett. Somewhat chalky SP2 today. Personally, that's somebody I'm going to be heavily underweight on.
Yeah, so cash teams, it's incredibly easy today. It's Gilbert and Varland. It's not even really that much of a discussion. I think that's like the easiest call in the day. I think that Clark Schmidt for tournaments is really, really interesting. I think people are going to be scared to, first of all, fade Varland in that same price range, go up against the Rays, who are the hottest team in baseball. So I think that he's an amazing play for tournaments. I don't even mind getting to a guy like Kyle Gibson. I know that he doesn't have the best ceiling, but Pittsburgh's kind of faded out, and Gibson's only 7,300, so I think he'd be interesting. And then I completely agree with you, Braxton Garrett. If you really need to go that low, he's completely fine too. I'm not, even if the weather was fine, I'm not really on Giolito today. I think that would be a pass for me. And then I think, I know you guys are talking about Mitch Keller, but 9,600 on DraftKings it's just too much for me. So I'd keep it to like Varland, Gilbert, and cash, and then get some pieces of Schmidt, Garrett, and maybe a little bit of Scherzer.
I'm so excited to play Keller today at very low ownership. We got a bit of a weaker lineup than usual for Baltimore today, and so I'm excited to fire him up in bunches. For me, Braxton Garrett, like we're projecting him for 25% ownership on DraftKings as an SP2. I have 5% Garrett right now, and it's the perfect, I think, pivot into talking stacks because my highest owned stack today in tournaments, I'm running 150 lineups. It's the Cincinnati Reds going up against Braxton Garrett because this is a guy that has been super reverse splitsy. He has not been good to right-handed bats by any way, shape, or form outside of he's not walking anybody. He's been great to lefties, but to righties, he's striking out 17%. His hard hit rate this year, it's 53% to right-handed batters. And this Cincinnati lineup today, all 9 of them, all 9 are right-handed. And there's a few in there with some solid ISOs. Nick Senzel is going to be one of my favorite one-offs, but we'll get to that later. Cincinnati's actually ended up being my highest owned stack. In terms of just my favorite team that I think is going to score the most raw points, I love Milwaukee, I love Atlanta, I love Seattle, and then I'm mixing in quite a bit of KC, Tampa Bay, and Toronto as well. Chief, how about you? Who are you going to today for stacks?
Yeah, so I actually have a couple teams that I really like. One of them is Milwaukee. I think everybody's going to like Milwaukee. I don't think that's going to be something that's sneaking up on anyone. Look, man, one of my favorite teams is the Braves. I don't think that's going to be sneaky against Kikuchi. Definitely like them as well. And then I think this one is slightly sneaky, if you will. And that's also, hear me out. Just hear me out here, because I think the Cubs. Not the Cubs, excuse me. I think Minnesota has slight appeal, like slightly. It doesn't feel good. They're facing Stroman, who's going to kind of keep the ball on the ground. But I think Minnesota's kind of like the high upside team of the day, right? If they're able to knock Stroman around a bit, they could be off to the races. Buxton, Correa, Polanco, Gallo. Like they have guys that can strike out a ton. Just not all of these guys, but I'm saying some of them that can strike out a ton. But the power in this lineup, I think, is what would have me playing them today on a slightly smaller slate than usual. So that's really where it is. Gallo 365, Krylov 500, Buxton 282. Then you got Polanco. I know he's on the season so far. He's been striking out a ton, but typically a much lower strikeout guy. I just think this team has upside. So I'm not saying they're like a favorite. I'm saying they're sneaky, and I'm willing to get some shares to be different.
So in 150 lineups, I only have one 5-man Minnesota stack, but they're my highest owned mini stack on the slate. I have a ton of Gallo and Kirilloff, and then I love the idea of just mixing in one of Buxton or Polanco as kind of that third guy in there. With the weather and kind of the way that lineup drops off, I don't love the full stack, but I'm with you. I love them as a mini stack today, or even picking and choosing a couple one-offs to get a little bit sneaky. How about you, Tim? Who are some of your favorite stacks today? We are 4 likes away from Spidey Bum number 2. I'm sure they're going to get that by the time Tim's done talking about stacks, and then I'll drop our second Spidey Bum. And I think we should even be able to get up to 150 likes to drop a third one as well. First one was Matt Olson, for those who missed it. Tim, who are you liking for stacks today?
Yeah, Atlanta is the top stack on the board, in my opinion. That's not going to sneak up on anybody. They are going to be highly owned, but I do really like them today. Houston, I think, is going to go kind of pretty low owns. They're showing in our top stacks tools the third highest optimal rate, and they're only going to be about 4.5% owned. So I think they make for a fantastic play. And then for a secondary stack, I don't really necessarily want to full stack them, but I mean, you could full stack them, but I think as like a secondary stack to get some pieces of some really, really great bats are the Royals against Colin Ray. Like, guys like Bobby Witt, Vinny P. It's like Bobby Witt to me, I think he's like a cash game must. And I also think that he's not going to be overly popular in tournaments. So, I think the Royals, they're kind of weak at the bottom, so I don't think you need to full stack them. But getting to the Royals as like a secondary stack, I think is a really, really great play. I love TJ's call on the Reds. I think that they're not going to carry a lot of ownership. And then Milwaukee's going to be pretty popular, and I think that they're going to end up being kind of over-owned, I guess, and that's what it shows in our top stacks tool. They're going to be about 11% owned and only going to be about optimal about 5% of the time. So that's quite a bit of negative leverage on Milwaukee, but they are at a great spot. So I'm certainly not saying you can't play them, but I think if I'm looking to get away from some ownership, I think it's going to be Houston and the Royals for me.
I like that quite a bit. We have gotten over 100 likes. I'll tell you what, I'll give you guys a discount because it's Mother's Day. All I need is 130 likes for the third Spidey Bomb. But Spidey Bomb number 2
Spider-Man does whatever a spider can. Spins a web any size, catches thief.
I know we talked about liking some Clark Schmidt in tournaments, but I'm going up against him with Josh Lowe for Spidey Bomb number 2, batting 5th today for Tampa, and he is plus 575 over on Caesars on our wonderful sponsor, Fanduel. He's plus 560. Too good of a power hitter to have odds that high. Josh Lowe's Spidey Bomb number 2. Get us up to 130 likes for Spidey Bomb number 3. We got to quickly go position by position here, and then we will take some QQs heading into lock. We got about 10 minutes here before lock. Tim, I'll go to you first for all the positions. If you can kind of talk cash game, optimal single entry styles, what you're doing. And then Chief, I will go to you second for some tournament takes. Starting at catcher, my 2 highest owned guys are Tom Murphy and Salvador Perez. For me, if I'm going down, it's Murphy. If I'm going up, it's Perez. And then outside of that, it's mostly just guys in stacks, with Caratini being my next highest owned guy. How about you, Tim?
Yeah, I like Sal Perez quite a bit. The only guy that I'd mention would be Tyler Stevenson and Travis d'Arnaud. I think that they make for, like, obviously I would rather you play them in stacks, but I think even if you're just kind of, want to like punt catcher, I think that they are good plays, and they do offer a little bit of power potential. Victor Caratini might be the cash game play at 2,500, batting 6th. He probably is your cash game catcher. I don't know if Will's got any other tournament takes at catcher.
I don't mind Alejandro Kirk today against Colin McHugh. I don't trust Colin McHugh in the slightest, so I'll throw Kirk in the mix as well.
Why did I think that Kirk wasn't in the lineup? Where is he batting today for the Blue Jays? Yeah, Kirk is not in the lineup. But Jansen is a guy that I do like quite a bit.
I'll still play Jansen.
Yeah, I'm with you there. At first base, we talked about getting a lot of one-offs from this Minnesota game. Gallo and Kirilloff are 2 guys I really like for tournaments. Obviously, we got the Spidey Bomb, Matt Olson. Vlad Guerrero is somebody I really like for tournaments today. Rowdy Tellez, I think, is probably optimal, but I also like a guy like Vinny P and Spencer Steer. How about you, Tim?
Yeah, I would say Rowdy Tellez or Vinny P are your cash game options. I don't mind like Anthony Rizzo for tournaments, Ryan Mountcastle for tournaments. I'm much more high on Baltimore than I am on Keller today. I think Joey Gallo batting leadoff he's 4,000 on DraftKings. I think he makes for a great play. And, a lot of people are going to be stacking these Braves with the right-handers, but you make a good call with Matt Olson left on left. I think his ownership's not going to be too high. So I really like him for like in a large field setting.
I muted because there was a cat jumping down. I think that makes sense. Chief, who do you like for tournaments?
Yeah, I mean, I don't ever mind Anthony Rizzo. He's a guy that typically can just, churn some fantasy points away. So I'm just going to throw him in the mix. He's going to see a lot of pitches that he can hit. Really good contact guy. Not crazy expensive today. I don't think a lot of people are going to be on the Yankees today for what it's worth. I think they're probably slightly sneaky today against Eflin, but I'm going to throw Anthony Rizzo in the mix. Still muted, buddy.
TJ, you're killing me, buddy.
Unbelievable rookie level stuff from me today. The pressure of hosting is getting to me. When I prep to host, I'm ready. When I don't know that I'm hosting before, it gets me every time. Let's pivot to second base. There's a question in the Discord about who would you roll with in cash, Albies or Brandon Lau, because they already have 3 other Atlanta players in cash. To me, I think it's still Albies, but in 150 lineups, 24 of them have Albies, 24 of them have Brandon Lau. Those are my 2 highest on second baseman today. Who would you be rolling with, Tim?
In cash games, I'd go Lau.
Cash games, Lau. Who else do you like at second base today?
John Birdie quite a bit, especially on FanDuel. He's second base, third base, and short eligible. That's 2,600. Not really like a high power guy, but he doesn't need to be. He's batting leadoff. He's steal a couple bases. I absolutely love him today. You might want to play him over Lau, but I think that I slightly prefer Lau. Derek Carty's the bat would say go with Birdie though, at a little bit cheaper. But that's kind of a toss up. But I don't think it's Albies in cash games. I like Jorge Polanco quite a bit. At only 2,800. And then I don't know. I think that maybe like part of a Brewer stack, you could get to Bryce Terang as your 4th Brewer. I think he'd be interesting. And then Nick Senzel for tournaments.
Yeah, Senzel on FanDuel, where you can play him on second base, I like quite a bit. I also like on DraftKings, Christopher Morel leading off today for the Cubs. I don't like the Cubs as a full stack, but I do like Morel as a one-off leading off today for the Cubs. Third baseman, I'm getting a ton of Austin Riley. I'm getting a ton of Nick Senzel, Suarez, Garcia, Bregman, Chapman. It's a pretty spread out position to me after Riley and Senzel. How about you, Tim, for cash?
At third base?
Yeah.
Yeah, third base DK John Birdie 3,000. He's third base shortstop. Austin Riley would probably be my favorite pay up option, followed by Gunnar Henderson, who I know that he has not been that great this year, but he is getting bumped up to the 3-hole. I know I'm in the minority, but I do like Baltimore quite a bit for tournaments today. Obviously you can play guys like Matt Chapman or Patrick Wisdom. But I think that for me, it's either going to be I pay down for Birdie or pay up for Riley.
How about you, Chief? Who do you like today in tournaments? And let's keep it speedy so we can get a few QQs in time for lock.
Definitely Mr. Riley, shortstop.
Shortstop, let's do it. Who do you like today for cash? Obviously Bobby Witt, but who would be a couple other pivots, Tim?
Yeah, Bobby Witt's my favorite. Willie Adames is certainly viable. Again, on FanDuel, you could play John Birdie, but I would prefer you not do it at short because I prefer the other options more. And then again, I like Gunnar Henderson quite a bit, but I would prefer if you played him at third.
I think I'm with you there. I like Adames, Witt, Bo Bichette quite a bit. Who do you like today, Chief?
Listen, I don't mind Tucupita Marcano, just kind of a cheap guy on the Pittsburgh side. Like I don't trust Kyle Gibson a ton, so I don't mind him as just a cheap guy to get in there. Anthony Volpe just has some stolen base upside, so I include him as well.
Outfield today, I absolutely love Julio Rodriguez, Ronald Acuna, Teoscar Hernandez, Gallo, Bowers leading off, Jack Sawinski batting cleanup, Varsho, Kirilov, Josh Lowe, who is a Spidey bum, and didn't even mention Yordan Alvarez or Christian Yelich or Jesse Winker Cheap, who are such awesome plays today as well. Absolutely loaded position. I think on FanDuel, this is most likely where you want to use your utility position. Who do you like today in the outfield, Tim?
Yeah, I really like Christian Yelich. He would probably be my favorite for both cash and definitely for cash games. You don't have to play him in tournaments because he's going to be pretty highly owned. Ronald Acuna is definitely like my top overall outfielder. I have him on both FanDuel and DraftKings right now. MJ Melendez is just like a tournament flyer because I really like the Royals today. He seems to be pretty reasonably priced on both sites. So I really like him. And I also really like Teoscar Hernandez as like a mid-range kind of GPP play.
Chief, who do you got in the outfield today?
Everybody that's part of the stacks that I'm running. So, a couple guys from Atlanta. Don't mind a couple guys from Toronto. Obviously, Varsho. I remember I'm going to sneakily stack the Twins. So Gallo Krylov is probably like the two-man stack of the day for me. The Milwaukee guys, and that's mainly it.
Getting some QQs, going to the Discord first, and go to the MLB Crunch Time chat to get your questions in. 12 more likes for Spidey Bomb number 3. Let's look, taking it over to Discord, and we got FanDuel Cash Tim, Adames, Acuna, and Tom Murphy, or Witt, Tucker, and Albies.
The first one, but I don't really love Murphy for cash, but it's the first one.
Yeah, and FanDuel, I don't know if I'd want to go to a guy like Murphy and cash today.
Yeah.
FanDuel single entry Chief, Vinny P and Josh Lowe, or Salvador Perez and Randy Arozarena?
Vinny P, Josh Lowe.
Same thing that I said there in response to him. How do you guys like the Mariners today in tournaments? I like they're like my second highest owned stack today. How about you, Tim?
Maybe not as high as second for me, but I'd say they've got to be probably around 5th for me. So I don't mind them at all.
How about you, Chief?
Yeah, I guess they're probably further down the list for me. They're gonna strike out and they're gonna hit some home runs. Like that's basically what it's gonna be today.
And so, final question until we have hit them all, and we are just getting to lock right now. Jake Bowers or Brian Dela Cruz as a one-off in a GPP, Chief?
I think I'm going.
That one
Bowers.
did just lock.
Yeah,
so hopefully you have Bowers, but if not, you're going with Dela Cruz because you got 5 more minutes for that one. Checking over at Discord. As a last piece, starting pitcher, dumpster dive on Jake Irvin. Thoughts? You laughed. No. I'm going to throw this to you, Tim.
I'm good.
Tim wasn't laughing. He was throwing up in his mouth.
Unbelievable that we're doing this to Tim right after a brunch and right before he's going to get some wonderful Italian food. We should have known that Tim's taking any question with Vinny P today, Vinny Pasquantino, Vinny Linguini, on a day that he's going to get some pasta for Mother's Day. Somebody tuned in just a little bit late. We are still 8 likes away from our last Spidey Bum. I want to give one more before we get out of here quick. Hopefully we can get it up there. Last QQ. Do you like Hunter Brown today despite the weather concern? What do you think, Tim?
I wouldn't be so worried about the weather. Roth seems a little bit optimistic about that game. I'm just kind of worried about it that I think that there are just better plays out there. But if, make sure you're looking at what Roth has to say. But if you want to play Brown, I don't think it's the worst play.
Final Spidey Bum of the day. We've been talking so much Mariners, and we are sticking with them. It is Julio Rodriguez, who you can still find at upwards of plus 500s on certain websites. So Julio Rodriguez, Spidey Bum number 3. He's my highest owned outfielder today, and somebody that I'm looking to get to a lot. Happy Mother's Day, everyone. Good luck on today's MLB slate. We hope you win lots of money and spend some time with your families, with the important women in your life. On behalf of Tim, on behalf of Chief, on behalf of our wonderful producer, Rob, behind the scenes, I'm going to do my best Kevin Roth impression. This has been TJ's Warch. This has been RotoGrinders Crunch Time, sponsored by Fanduel. You have been crunched.